everyone to today's City Council meeting for the Public Infrastructure and Environmental Sustainability Committee. Why don't we start with a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
So moved to approval.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any commentary? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of adoption indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? All right, the minutes are approved. We didn't have anyone request elevation for our consent agenda items, so if you're staff and you're here for that, you don't need to.
Councilmember Mumm, President Beggs.
Oh, Councilmember Mumm.
I just had a question about number 15 on consent for a resolution for funding infrastructure improvements in NEPDA. Is that what David's here to talk about today?
Not, he's here to give a report. He might cover that.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll technically ask to have it taken off and we can have him talk about it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And we're going to go to David Guthrie to start, since he's visiting our committee, to give us a report on the Northeast Public Development Authority. David, welcome again, and go ahead and let us know what's going on and what you want us to know about.
Hey, thank you. So I guess Councilwoman Mumm, I'm not sure what that reference was to, so you'll have to, and maybe Michael or Councilman Cathcart was the one that submitted that, so we could start with that if you'd like.
It is the resolution that commits the city, if we receive federal funding for improvements, most notably the Wellesley improvement, that the city council would fund the 20% match.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so I am familiar with that. Yeah, and we'll see how that all sorts itself out at the federal level. So no guarantees at this point, but it's. Let's see here. In terms of the PDA, so I understand I have 5 minutes. Is that about right? Okay.
Yeah, you can take a little more than that if you need. Our agenda isn't too packed today, so.
Isn't too packed. Okay. Well, on behalf of the NEPDA and the board and myself, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'll just touch on a few main points and revolving around infrastructure. The first is ARPA. And so thank you for been working with Ariane Schmidt and on a Build Back Better regional grant application, regional challenge grant application, and Ariane was very instrumental in working with the city and the county to get that submitted. So I think there's tremendous potential there. And as we go forward, I would just hope that investments in infrastructure in areas that have suffered from historical underinvestment, disadvantaged communities like the Northeast, are top of mind with the City Council. And so with respect to infrastructure, the NEPDA is keenly focused on addressing just building complete streets, a grid network of complete streets within the city of Spokane that connects to the NSC on the west and the new Forker, Bigelow Gulch, Sullivan Road Beltway project. The NEPDA is really ideally positioned there at the intersection of those two major infrastructure projects. But as you leave those projects, you drive a couple blocks east or south and you're on dirt roads predominantly. So we've got, I've been told, the highest concentration of dirt roads in the city in this targeted investment area. And so we really need to build complete streets to level the playing field, to remedy the historical underinvestment, to attract the quality employers that will provide those manufacturing jobs, which significantly exceed the average household income in Northeast Spokane, which is only $36,500 and includes one of the poorest census tracts in the state of Washington. So one of the challenges up in Northeast is that a lot of this area in the city was platted in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And so the public right-of-way is too narrow. So to build the complete streets, even before we get to that point, we've got to do the planning and the design, but then we're going to have to go out and acquire right-of-way from a couple hundred property owners. And that's going to take council support. It's going to be, a challenge. We'll meet with all property owners individually and build the support and do the community outreach, but there will be a significant number that I'm sure see this as a, for lack of a better term, a winning lotto ticket. And we're going to need the city's support to build out that grid network. And then going forward, I think the city's policy, and I've mentioned this before, but the city right now, planning department asks property owners, it's a condition of their building permit to build a public road fronting their street. And so you've got about 700 parcels up in the Northeast PDA that are less than 3/4 of an acre. So these are locations that small businesses are going on. These are not Amazons of the world. And when the planning department tells the small electrical contractor, you've got to spend, $100,000 on your building, but $200,000 building the public road fronting your site, that's a significant barrier to investment in that location. One, the small business doesn't have it, the money typically. Two, they don't have the wherewithal or the ability to build a public road in many cases. And then three, when you add that cost to what they paid for the property, it effectively doubles the land cost and makes it uncompetitive regionally. So it's a significant barrier that I'd love to see changed, and ultimately it just results in a patchwork of improvements that's going to take generations to get any complete infrastructure. So I don't think it's a very effective strategy. And then the third point was the 6-year cap plan. I would love to see us allocate resources to areas like the NEPDA. So in this upcoming 6-year cap plan, we don't have any funding allocated to the NEPDA. And it's, and I understand the city's methodology. We want wins. We want to use the taxpayer dollars to generate the highest return on investment. But I would suggest that for, census tracts where families are struggling, disadvantaged areas that have suffered from historical underinvestment, that we take a percentage of that budget allocated to the capital plan each year, and then we allocate it to areas that have lagged historically, that have suffered, and we do it because it's the right thing to do, not because it's going to generate a high return on investment. And the problem with the current system is that it rewards areas with existing levels of high investment. So an area like the West Plains, you have an Amazon, it's driving traffic counts, new buildings going up. So then it justifies, under a scoring metrics that we use, additional improvements. And what happens to those areas like Northeast Spokane that don't have the existing level investment, they don't have the traffic counts to justify, they don't score high enough on that scoring metrics, and therefore they don't get awarded capital in the CAP plan. So I'd love to see us take just 20% off the top and say we're going to invest it in census tracts that are disadvantaged census tracts or areas that have suffered from historical underinvestment, and we're going to make those investments early, and we recognize that private investment's going to follow, and that start to level the playing field in those areas. Otherwise, we just, in my opinion, perpetuate a cycle of poverty. Yeah.
Hi, Dave. Always good to see you. So where are you? You're a business person, as am I. We've worked together before. We obviously need a business plan. So where are we? We don't want to do the peanut butter approach because you're right. We could go in there and pave a street. Nothing's going to move in there. So where are you with your strategic plan, your business plan, your phased approach, your capital improvement assessment of where you're most likely to see a return on investment first? Where are you with all those?
Yeah, great questions. So we have thought through all this, and we developed and worked with the city, and the city was helpful in upgrading or reclassifying a couple of roads, Myrtle and Rowan, to arterials and urban collectors. And so we've developed basically a grid network at about a quarter-mile intervals east to west, and then half-mile intervals north to south. And so then we've had an economic assessment done that basically, once you build this basic infrastructure, you can expect X number of jobs, and that's about 700 jobs, with wages between like 46,000 and 66,000, which is in the typical manufacturing sector. And that opens up just very conservatively, as much as 3 million potential square feet that could be built on just that grid network of roads. And the property taxes and sales tax and so forth that are generated from that. But the big thing is by putting in that infrastructure, you've got a competitive product. I know when I was kind of on the other side, working for Schweitzer Engineering, and I would look at locations worldwide, the Northeast PDA wouldn't have been a competitive location just because of the lack of infrastructure. And so to attract the quality employers, I think we need to make those investments in the infrastructure, and then the private investment will follow. But we have done, so we've got the basic grid network. I can send you the exhibits that show where that grid network is anticipated. It connects to the NSC. It connects to the Francis and Bigelow Gulch. And then we've had, like I said, that economic impact analysis that basically quantifies the projected building square feet and the number of jobs resulting therefrom.
Okay, sounds like some more planning dollars might be helpful then to you as well. Thank you.
Oh boy, planning dollars, would be great, and particularly for the just designing roads. So we can't submit for grant applications to build roads because we don't own the right of way, and we haven't done the design for the complete streets. And so just the planning, the design, the high-level environmental, and then the actual right-of-way acquisition. Then we're in the position where we've got a shovel-ready project to build a street and go forward. Yes.
Hi, Dave. I don't think we've met, but thanks for your hard work on this. I wonder if we should open up our complete streets ordinance again and look at it in light of this is an industrial area. What kind of modifications could we make while still accommodating pedestrians? Maybe it's not bikes. Certainly street trees are going to be necessary in that area because it's so deficit of any kind of tree infrastructure, which ultimately will mitigate stormwater and cost less for us as a city in the future. So I would like, and I can talk with Marlene perhaps offline and see if this is something that we can just tweak a little bit so that it's not so onerous on an industrial area.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think about a year and a half ago, I had worked with Catherine Miller, and she had someone, Brandon, I believe it was, that had started working on more of an industrial street design, as opposed to the complete street that may not be appropriate in all industrial areas, for example. So, I think some work's been done on that, but I don't think it was ever finalized.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for David? And just, David was talking about the ARPA challenge grant at the beginning, just so council members know, those aren't the city ARPA funds, those are state commerce funds. But it's a big, it's like $70 million, or it's even national, actually. So it's, it's a bit of a long shot, but it would be a game-changing grant program if we got it. So it's
that would truly be a game changer. So any lobbying or any advocacy is really appreciated.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, and just one point too on the planning dollars. We've talked about doing a sub-area plan, and that's still sort of sitting out there on pause at this point. And I know we've talked about allocating some dollars for that, either through ARP or just through the general budget process. And so that's really important and something that needs to happen soon.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think just as a reminder, the NSC, this section of the NSC will be complete in 2023, early 2023. And I think, you know, the city did a great job investing in the CBDG dollars into the streetscapes, but unusually, very little private investment occurred. And my theory is that Market Haven acts as a heavy freight corridor. And so if you try to sit out there and have a cup of coffee in the mornings, you can't hear somebody 3 feet away from you. And so, but when the NSC opens up, a lot of that freight moves off and it goes to the NSC. And then you've got an opportunity to kind of rethink, say, how downtown Hilliard works. And I'd love the opportunity, to secure planning dollars that involves community outreach, design charrettes, where the people in Northeast Spokane, the Hilliard community, have an opportunity to help kind of go through an envisioning process to design what their community looks like and the amenities they want. And then we can use that as a blueprint to go secure additional funding to, perhaps narrow streets, widen sidewalks, to build public spaces, green spaces, some kinds of public amenities, that then starts to activate that from a pedestrian and retail level, that should attract additional private investment. And if we can do that and get the community behind it, where they're participating in the process, I think that's going to go a long ways in restoring trust in the Northeast with the city, and have the city aligned with the residents and the PDA all kind of working off the same playbook. And so I would love to see some sort of visioning, if it's not a sub-area plan, at least a visioning, an action plan that engages the community in that type of process.
Yeah. That sounds good. All right. Of course, you're welcome to stay on the call if you want, but I'm going to excuse you officially, David. Thanks again for your work, and we'll look forward to hearing from you next time. And
Thank you, Buster. Appreciate your time.
Oh, sorry.
Go
ahead.
Are we going to have a separate discussion of that resolution? It may be good to have David for that if we are going to have a separate discussion.
Well, why don't you just summarize it, Mike? I mean, because I think it's your resolution you're sponsoring, so why don't you just summarize that real quick?
Basically, it's just the city committing to provide the 20% matching dollars if we're able to get the federal allocation on the Wellesley project. I mean, that really is what it boils down to. So it's something, I think the resolution lays out about $215,000 that the city would commit to. And these are monies that would be necessary for this project to happen. And that project is pretty crucial for both the industrial as well as the residential kind of concepts that we've been discussing. So a really important investment for an underinvested part of our community.
Councilmember Mumm. You're on mute.
Oh, you're
I
on
was
mute.
just trying to find my microphone. Thank you. I just want to hear from Marlene on this. I hate committing something to the future, especially when there's a change in council. I won't probably be here when that comes through. But Marlene, how does that align with the needs that you're seeing there, that financial commitment?
I don't know that I've looked at the details of the council member's resolution. It was my understanding that we were going to use existing NEPDA resources as the match for the Wellesley grant. I know that we were working on whether all the funding that had been committed to the Esmeralda Commerce Park was actually going to end up there, and that was one of the sources. I don't know, there were a couple of others. Catherine Miller could remind me, but it was our intent that we would help them identify funding that was already available to the NEPDA. I did not have a line item in the capital funds for that.
We should probably clear that up. Thank you, Marlene. And see if that's that's part of the discussion, I think.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move on to Councilmember Kinnear has two ordinances, one on accessory dwelling unit and one on stormwater maintenance. So, Councilmember Kinnear, why don't you start with the ADUs?
Thank you. So the ADUs, if you've read the briefing paper, and by the way, none of these are on the agenda yet, so this is the first touch with council. And essentially what Jacoby and I were doing, we were taking things off of our list of development incentives. This was the first one because we got some help from planning that this would be the low-hanging fruit, if you will. And essentially, I think it's a 3-year project. So it ends December 2024, and it would be a pilot. So we'd have measurement at the end. We're looking at reducing and eliminating the fees to put in ADUs. So essentially, it would save a private homeowner who wanted to put their mother-in-law in the backyard and not in the garden shed about $5,000 to build something. What's worth noting is this would be for areas that are adjacent to centers and corridors, so within a half mile. And again, it is a 3-year pilot, and I think, let's see, Louis told us right now there are about 10 to 12 ADUs that are built per year. So we would see if this would really bump up that number so that we could get some momentum going for some of the folks that want to do that. And, you know, when you think about right now, we've got skilled labor shortages, we've got supply shortages. So this might be something that is doable because it's such a small scale. So I'm hoping that we can get this going and see if we can get some movement on smaller places to live. And I'd love to have questions if you have them. Mr. Cathcart.
Yeah, I guess no major issue with the concept. I mean, I think we have to reduce the permit fees for ADUs, but I just hope that we're not looking at this as this is going to kind of give us some indication as to how interested the public is in ADUs, because I worry that, one, that quarter mile is a very small window, and so I don't know how much we're going to see within that small landscape. But then two, and probably more, even bigger than that, is while we still have the owner-occupied rule in place, I just don't think we're going to see a huge number of these go up. So I think there's other regulations that'll have to be addressed for us to see an uptick. And so hopefully we'll have an opportunity to consider some of those other obstacles too.
And I just wanted to comment on when we are talking about density, the reason that we're focusing on half a mile is because the infrastructure is in place in that half a mile. So if you want to walk to a transit stop, if you want services, you can easily do that. We have to be mindful of residential streets and the capacity that they have right now and not overload. And I will say that in talking with our former, he was an engineer, streets engineer, Bob Turner, and he was very concerned about density that was just going to be put anywhere in a neighborhood because of the street issue and the load on streets that wouldn't be part of a study, so that we would be essentially putting development where it would cause an impact on neighbors and on neighborhoods. So that was my intention for keeping to the centers and corridors. And Karen, you had a comment or a question?
Well, I think you may have answered it. My question is, so I don't live near a center or corridor, but I have a huge yard, and let's say I want to use that extra space to construct an ADU. Do I get any, number one, can I do that under this, or is this just centers and corridors?
You can do that now. All this does is say, here are some incentives if you live within that half mile. And
so
again,
I wouldn't get incentives, but if I did it within that center and corridor, I would get the incentives, right?
correct.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the basis of all those development incentives, is we're trying to get to that AMI that's under 120. We're trying to get to the point where our centers and corridors are actually built out and are dense and are activated. And Councilmember Mumm has provided us with a map of where they all are, where the centers are, where the corridors are. And so it's pretty clear that those are our spots. We have opportunity there. So that was my intent, to help activate this.
And if mine is affordable, if I'm looking for that population, I need to be within that center and corridor. That's with those centers and corridors, right?
Just for these incentives,
Okay.
you can do, whatever whatever you like
Thanks.
elsewhere. And then the second one I had, and I still need more information from Marlene, and it's essentially city management of stormwater facilities in the public right-of-way and the continued tree planting to mitigate stormwater. So under, I believe it's, under Title 12, we've added, notwithstanding the requirements of SMC 12.01, the city shall maintain all stormwater facilities that exist within the public right-of-way, including maintaining vegetation planted within such stormwater facilities. And we had this conversation before when we were looking at, we have our CSO tanks, we have those built environments of storm gardens in each district. To me, it's most important that we maintain them, because if we don't, we've just invested a whole lot of money and we're letting them go and deteriorate, and they don't work after a while. So I want to make sure that as a city that we're aware that we have these and the ability to build more, because there's cheaper solution than to continue to build CSO tanks. So that was my thought around that. So we don't have a financial on this yet, and we will get one as soon as I get with Marlene. Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, thank you. I've discussed this with Marlene recently, but I think, obviously it's important for the city to take care of its stormwater itself. But I think too, if there's an opportunity for us to expand this, to not just look at stormwater facilities, but to look at taking care of overgrowth in our rights of way in general, I think that's something we need to do. You just drive around my district for about 30 seconds and you'll see lots of overgrown weeds in our rights of way, islands that have just tall weeds growing up in them. It's not a very nice look. And I think if we're going to figure out a way to maintain stormwater facilities, we could expand that to also just be taking care of city right of way in general.
And I think Marlene's working with Garrett Jones on a plan for parks to work on that and take care of that. And I don't know if there's I think they're still in conversation. I agree with you. We have areas here, and certainly Lower South Hill, East Central, and even where I'm living is, there are areas that are just, they need help, they need care, they need love, and right now they're not getting it. So I don't disagree. I thought this would be a good place to start, and then we can expand from there.
All right. Well, thanks for bringing those forward. And we are going to hear from Marlene and Garrett a little bit later today about such things. But before that, we have Kevin Piconso to give us an update on the Illinois Avenue Protected Bike Lane project.
Good afternoon, Council. Share my screen. You should be seeing my screen now.
Yep.
Thanks again for the time to have me here. This is the second update on the Illinois Avenue Protected Bike Lane project that we've been doing planning work on throughout this year. So first, just kind of a real quick agenda so you know what some topics are that will be coming here and what I have to share. First, just kind of a background overview again, refresh folks' memory on how we got to where we are today. Brief overview of the alternatives. I presented those in the past, but I'll briefly touch on them again. And then a greater focus on the easterly segment, which relates to a near-term project for a grind and overlay in 2022 that we have planned, as well as plazas in that area and street trees. I want to touch on those two topics as well. So first, again, on the background, this really originated from the council's resolution back in June, requesting that we look at protected bike lanes on Illinois Avenue. Around that same time, Street Department had a grind and overlay project planned for the easterly part of our study area on Illinois from Perry to Market Street. It was supposed to have started in 2021. We asked them to hold off on that work while we conducted this study to look for opportunities, any low-hanging fruit to implement protected bike lanes in this stretch of work. We've had multiple touch points with the public. The Bicycle Advisory Board back in May, had an initial public meeting in June. We've had a website and story map available to the public to view and comment on since June. I was before you in August, giving you an update of where we stood And then we had a second public meeting here late September 23rd. So again, just kind of an overview and some of the terminology I'll be using just to help orient folks. Our study area stretches from west of Hamilton Street, from Cincinnati, which is the Cincinnati Greenway, which is why we kind of extended our westerly limits from Hamilton over to Cincinnati. It starts on that west end of Cincinnati and proceeds east past Perry up to Market Street. And for the purposes of our study work as well as the alternatives, we broke things down into three different segments: a west segment, a small central segment centered around Perry Street, and then the larger east segment. Variety of reasons for this. The character and nature of the road of Illinois through there varies. Right-of-way availability varies, and just the opportunities and what type of improvements may work through there really vary by segment, which is why we broke it up this way. So first, I won't spend much time on the west and central segment. I shared these last time. Through the public outreach process, we landed on what was identified as preferred alternative. At that west end, the road is modified in the right-of-way. Within the existing right-of-way, we're able to bump in the curb lines, providing more space behind the curb to construct more of a shared or wider facility or a zone that can be shared by both bikes and pedestrians. Moving to the central segment, I'll kind of utilize a perspective view and rendering that we have here. This is at Perry Street looking east. The preferred alternative that we landed on includes a 3-lane travel section, 3 lanes in each direction, and a left turn lane that take you down to southerly Perry Street. And then protected bike lanes, protected with some sort of curbing or buffering on each side. Those are depicted here on each side of the roadway in this stretch or this segment. So jumping to the east segment, kind of the bulk of what we want to discuss today. We originally developed 6 different alternatives, and this is for the stretch east of Perry Street. What we've landed on is kind of the preferred near-term option, and this is something that will work with the desired grind and overlay project that we need to complete and intend to move forward with in 2022. And what this improvement does, or this option does, excuse me, is within the existing curb-to-curb roadway, without doing any widening or modification to that curb-to-curb width, we can accomplish our grind and overlay project, narrow up some of the lanes, remove the existing parking that exists along the southerly or bluff side of the road, and with that available space, we can incorporate a shared use facility and then separate and protect them with a 3-foot raised median. Now that shared facility would utilize that pavement grade. We wouldn't be elevating the shared use facility or completely gutting and reconstructing that frontage. So we're able to do this at a very low cost, but yet still provide that shared use space that's protected that we can incorporate in this near-term project at a relatively small cost. This is a rendering of that same project. This particular rendering is done at Crestline Street looking east. The road's a little bit wider here because of a left turn pocket, but this depicts that shared facility that can be used by both bikes and pedestrians with the raised curb separating and protecting those bike and pedestrian users. So then the longer term options that kind of bubble to the surface that were viewed as being desirable or more desirable just from our public outreach and survey and comments. This first longer term option, option 4, this also utilizes the space from curb to curb, but it completely reconstructs kind of this southerly quarter or third of the roadway by removing existing roadway, elevating the shared use path, bumping in the curb line. That in turn requires modifications and changes to the storm drain system and provides that more, I guess I'll call it more of a traditional shared use path that folks are used to seeing. That does significantly increase the cost, though, about 50% beyond just doing a plain grind and overlay project. So that's why we view this as more of a long-term option. Option 4 or option 3, I just previously showed you, implementing that here in the short term does not preclude this particular option, option 4, from being done down the road or in the future. And then same thing with option 6. This is something that could be implemented in the future. It's a similar option 4, except that it also includes essentially a westbound bike lane. It's a buffered bike lane. So overall, it's a wider section. What that requires, though, is that we do construction beyond that existing curb line. So now we're dealing with a steep slope that kind of drops down to the railroad. So now we got retaining walls involved and just a more involved construction, which substantially increases that cost. But this is an option that could be considered for the future. And again, the near-term work we're doing wouldn't preclude doing something like this down the road. Again, this kind of just summarizes that delta. These are the additional costs kind of above and beyond just going out and doing the plain grind and overlay. This is a long stretch of road from Perry to Market, over $2 million in grind and overlay project costs. So a relatively small increase to accomplish that option 3, but much larger increase, a 50% increase roughly to do option 4, and really doubling of the project cost to do option 6, which is why we're landing on that option 3, because that's something we can do now and get that improvement in place to benefit bikes and pedestrians by the end of 2022. So I want to move into discussion of plazas. Before I do that,
Councilmember Cathcart, I have a question.
Sure.
Hey, Kevin, just real quick, when you showed the graphic there and it says 6.5 foot buffer, I guess what is that buffer? Is it going to be like a planting strip? Is it concrete? What is that buffer that's 6 feet?
So that's not determined at this time. It could be landscaping. There's a variety of different treatments. That's really just to provide that more of that safety and that comfort level between the bikes and peds and the vehicular traffic. And that's that's a more common.
It wouldn't necessarily. No, I appreciate it. It wouldn't necessarily be a 6 foot wide concrete.
Correct.
Border, right? Okay. I just wanted to verify that.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. We're kind of showing this generically. Again, it could be landscaped. It could be a rock mulch. There's different treatments that could be used there.
Gotcha.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Kevin, could you go back to, that works. So when you're going east and you get to, is it Green Street? Where's the end of this?
So the limits would be Market Street is just here on the very edge. We wouldn't get into Market Street itself. We would probably get into just that curve as you're approaching Market Street and terminate the grind and overlay work there. And then at the west end is up to, but not including Perry Street.
So I'm concerned about the east end. I'm wondering, you get to the end, and then what do you do?
Sure. A couple things, and this is kind of getting down more into the design details. But at a high clip level, what we've talked about is we have things like Cook Street, which is the Cook Street Greenway. That's a long-term plan. Crestline Street. Our intention would be to provide, for multiple reasons, but provide enhanced pedestrian crossings at key locations, including Crestline, including Cook Street. So in terms of that accessibility to other parts of the bike and pedestrian network, as an example, if you want to get up to the Garland pathway that we have planned and the overcrossing of the NSC by the Children of the Sun Trail at Garland and Market, this Cook Street corridor would be a good way to get there, to head north up to Garland and then east to get over the freeway and railroad corridor, as an example. We've kind of tentatively thrown around the idea as well of maybe an additional enhanced pedestrian crossing, maybe in the vicinity of Regal Street, about a block or so before that end. So to kind of address that point of, how do you take people elsewhere once they get to that end, recognizing that Market Street is a challenging environment, in terms of bike and pedestrian traffic.
Kevin?
Yes.
Have you thought about connecting to the school, the new school that's going in? The new middle school?
Which are we referring to the one on the city property?
Yep.
To the north. Yeah, there's I think at the west end here, I think we'll want to have another enhanced pedestrian crossing at that western terminus. As part of this project, we haven't developed, further connectivity, getting up to that particular site.
Yeah, buddy, what's up?
Hey, Kevin.
Councilmember Cathcart.
One other on, so what do you think are the long-term or maybe medium-term prospects for Perry? You know, we've got the Central City line that's going to have a station just down that street. And I wonder if there is an opportunity then for this, kind of my hope has been that we can connect this bike ped path to something that would go down Perry and make it easy for whether it's bicyclists, walkers, whatever, to access Central City line. Also, just below the river there, we've got both senior living as well as low-income apartments that need better access to things. And so trying to you know, create more connections. And I'm wondering
Sure.
what might be possible down the road.
Yeah, kind of answer that in two ways. Perry Street heading south towards Mission, that is on our bike plan for an improvement. So just as we're doing with this Illinois project, you know, when that street or segment comes up, you know, for say a grind and overlay project or similar, you know, we look to see if there'd be opportunities to implement, say, a striped bike lane on those facilities. In the immediate and in the short term, you do have some good options or reasonable options at Perry Street here. If you can see my cursor, there's kind of a winding existing path that is there today that works kind of straight down towards the Avista campus, crosses the railroad tracks, connects to, I think it's called Center at that location, that realigned road that Avista recently built, which then takes you down to Upriver. And of course, you guys are aware that you know, there's been that vacation of Upriver west of here in that park area. So that would be a relatively bike and pedestrian friendly corridor, and that connects them to the Centennial Trail, and then that can take them down to Mission Avenue, and again the CCL and the other, you know, destinations that you mentioned down there. So I think there's kind of two, both the near term and additional long term options. Okay, not hearing any other questions. Moving
I
to
have
the.
a question.
Oh, sure.
Actually, I got to get a cat off my desk here. Kevin, I want you to know I grew up on Dalton and Perry. And when I was a kid, we would get on our bikes, no helmets, and we would get on our bikes and go down Perry and around through that cutoff area to Washington Water Power to visit my dad. I'm surprised any of us lived through those bike trips. That was back then. So I'm impressed with some of these changes and hope that even though this is going to be in stages, that we can really help that neighborhood in that area make those, you know, biking and walking safer and more enjoyable, because that's what I remember about that neighborhood. It was really a challenge to get around and to feel safe. You know, even walking over to Gonzaga Prep across Perry was dangerous. So it's nice to see some attention being paid to this area.
Great.
Councilmember Stratton, did you used to sneak into the Washington Water Power Fountain and swim?
Yes, my brother did until he got caught.
Yeah,
And
we used to do that too.
then we were in trouble and we couldn't go down there for a while. But yeah, we did all sorts of things.
Okay, well, moving to the plaza discussion. Looking at the stretch of this near-term project, through early discussions with the initial public meeting, there was a significant desire expressed to not just have some sort of protected facility, but also the additional amenities for bikes and pedestrians, including plazas or overlooks. And looking at the area, we've identified two primary locations at either end of the corridor that are both good options and opportunities where plazas can both fit and have the right terrain. In the center part of this segment of roadway, particularly across the line, steep slope drops off fairly close behind the curb. There really isn't available space, good flat space for plazas. But there are these two areas I've highlighted at the west end and east end where there's some opportunity there for some plazas. So in response to that, we developed a concept plan. I think I shared this a little bit last time. So this is a rendering that we put together. It's just a concept. It's not the plan. It's not necessarily what it has to look like. But we just developed this to help the public kind of understand and envision what could be done there. the background photo on this lower image here is the actual Illinois looking kind of southwest. This is more towards the west end. There is some good available flat space with adequate right-of-way. The property line is set back a ways between us and the railroad here, so there's some opportunity. The west end is a little more space at the west end than there is at the east end, but I think we could fit something along these lines, at both plaza locations. Preliminarily including, amenities, such as bench and trash receptacle and some landscaping and particularly some trees for some shading at the plazas themselves. So these were reviewed favorably at the public meeting, a lot of positive comments. So the issue or next steps on this really becomes, funding and implementation. The question that came up at a public meeting has been mentioned, how about traffic calming funds? So as you guys well know, that's really a council-driven process. So that's a conversation, discussion that needs to be had between, the neighborhood, the staff that support the traffic calming program and the council, and determine if that's something, if that's something that traffic calming funds, could be dedicated to fund these improvements. There's a couple different ways those plazas could be implemented. Through those discussions, if a decision is made and we're informed of that, early enough, it's possible that we could wrap it into the grind and overlay project itself in 2022. If the timing for that decision comes a little bit later, or if the funds simply aren't available for 2022, we could deliver those plazas just as a separate construction project or standalone project by themselves, either as a late contract in 22 or 23, whatever makes sense. There's not much overlap, if you will. The one thing we would need to know before we started construction, let's say the plazas weren't going to get included in the grind and overlay initially, we're going to come later. The only thing we need to really know about is know that early enough that we can include water services and taps to feed those plaza areas for landscape irrigation. But aside from that, we could proceed with the grind and overlay project without, a later plaza project, encroaching upon or kind of doubling the effort on our construction and all. So again, that's something, hopefully this can be discussed going forward, and we welcome any feedback or input that we get over the next couple months. And again, depending on that timing, we can make a decision of how it gets delivered and when.
Hey, Kevin.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess two things. One, so we just need to make a decision on the funding piece by February 1st, and so I assume that means we would be determining kind of what level of work that we're going to be supporting. Is that what would need to be determined by February 1st?
Yeah, more or less. I noted up here, our ballpark to do something along the lines of that image that I showed. We're in that probably $100,000 to $150,000 range.
And that's just the plazas. The grind and overlay and the bike thing is already funded.
Correct. So this is that extra cost if we want to add plazas. We're not building plazas with our grind and overlay projects, right? So it's definitely above and beyond what we would normally do. So
just the pin curve. Just the pin curve, right, is in the grind and overlay project, Kevin?
Correct. Yep.
So the second question is on the landscaping side of this. So looking at that last graphic you showed, really there's only landscaping at the plaza, and I'm wondering what would it take to do more landscaping along the entire corridor? I think when we supported this a year ago, Councilwoman Burke actually, I think, said it best when she referred to this as sort of Northeast High Drive. And I don't think you would only see landscaping, a hodgepodge of landscaping if this was on High Drive. I think we would see it kind of along that corridor. And so what would it take for us to really spruce this up and add some greenery and make this a real beautiful space?
Sure. Yeah, and that's my next topic. That's a good segue for me into the street trees. You're mentioning also landscaping, not just trees, I assume, but I can sort of the same topic. So this is something we talked about at the public meeting as well. Is the street tree issued opportunity that was raised at the last PIES meeting I presented on this in August. So we kind of brought this forward with that second public meeting. What this graphic shows is kind of similar to the last one, but kind of highlighted areas where there's some opportunity for street trees in this kind of green dashed areas. The one area that's not really opportunity is right at Crestline again, because those really steep slopes, it wouldn't really be an appropriate place to try to plant a tree. But there is a long stretch of opportunities, through this corridor. So the discussion at that time at the public meeting was interesting. It was really, frankly, some polar opposite feedback. There were certainly some general comments and feedback from neighborhood leaders and representatives that yes, they wanted that enhancement and that beautification of the street trees. But there was also several attendees at the public meeting who were the actual residents that live on these frontages that enjoy those views, that were very much opposed to street trees, given that it would obstruct their sort of panoramic views that they have there. So very interesting topic. Again, pretty, kind of diametrically opposed feedback, if you will, on that. To answer your question on implementation, I think that there needs to be additional discussion that occurs, I believe, with the neighborhood and those immediately affected residents to make that determination of are street trees going to get planted along here at some point or not. Regardless, I would intend, if we were to move forward with street trees, I would intend to do that outside of this capital project, working with our Parks Department and some of the nonprofit groups that we have. We can get something implemented in terms of street tree planting at a lower cost compared to doing it within our capital projects. And in terms of the irrigation, what I had in mind is if we move forward with those plazas are going to get irrigation to them. We could tee off of those plazas, that irrigation system, and then feed street trees along this stretch. Now, you've mentioned landscaping in addition. It's kind of the first I've heard that particular, that focus. I've been hearing street trees. But we could have that same conversation to kind of go with the street tree discussion, if you will. I guess the one difference is, landscaping versus meaning, shrubs and ground cover. One advantage there is it wouldn't, obscure the views and, wouldn't, I would assume, not be as great a concern to the residents that live along there.
So Kevin, I wonder, and I'm not a landscape architect by any stretch, but I wonder if you could do like large street trees where those intersections are, where you're not directly obstructing a view, and then you do kind of smaller form greenery landscaping that might be in between. And that way you preserve views, it greens up that corridor for the pedestrians and the users, and still creates kind of that real nice feel. But again, I'm not a landscape architect, just throwing that out there as an idea.
I think just to share, those that were concerned with the obstructing their view, I think they articulated that it's really that panoramic nature of their view. It's not just whether there's a tree directly in front of them or not. So frankly, I don't know how they would view that if we only did them at intersection locations versus right in front of their homes. I suspect some of them would still express that concern that they're still losing some of that panoramic nature of their view. I would, if we're going to be more robust without landscaping above street trees, that's going to add to that cost. I mentioned that $100,000 to $150,000 in terms of plazas and landscaping. We'd have to put a number to that. I don't want to guess at a number off the top of my head, off the cuff here, but that would certainly increase the cost and the volume of irrigation. If we're going to have more intensive plantings, we might need an additional water service, maybe at a center location. So I just say that's going to add to that cost. What I would suggest is that, maybe we pursue that as part of just the street tree discussion, because like I said, I think there needs to be additional discussions with the neighborhood and those residents. And I think we can do that outside of the Grinder Overlay project as its own independent project. And frankly, from a cost perspective, it might make more sense to do it in that way anyhow. So that's my initial thought.
All right.
Hey, Council President Beggs, I just have a quick question for Kevin, please.
Yes.
So I like the idea of the landscaping. I think the challenge has always been who would maintain it. Would that be parks or would that be streets? Because we were talking about overgrown right-of-ways already in our city. So at some point, I need to hear a little bit about where that responsibility would lie to maintain it.
Council President
Yes,
Flory.
Councilmember Kinnear.
I want to chime in here. Councilmember Cathcart has a good point, and if we're trying to really add tree canopy to Northeast, we need to be thinking about this particular corridor. We had the same objections when we were planting on the Centennial Trail by Kendall Yards. People didn't want their views obstructed. And most importantly, you want to bring in our city arborist, Katie Kosinski, consult with her, consult with the other arborists to find ways where trees can be placed that won't obstruct the views, whether they're deciduous or conifers. In addition, if we stick to what we're telling other people to do and plant a Spokanescape, which has low water impact, has less maintenance impact, I think we can achieve the results that Councilmember Cathcart is looking for. If you go to High Drive, some of what was done there was storm gardens, again, because it was designed to mitigate stormwater runoff. And not every section, in fact, most sections of High Drive aren't landscaped because there are houses on both sides going south, and then there's the bluff that's just the bluff on the other side. So it's ponderosas and, grass. And so I think we'd like to be more intentional about looking at this as an opportunity to green up District 1 and help them achieve their goals. So if any way we could look at this and bring in Katie and some of the other arborists would be, I think, a good idea.
Okay. And what I'll add is, I would encourage this as part of that, funding discussion on the plaza side to kind of add to it. Again, as I mentioned, it's going to be an increase in cost if we're going to add, not just street trees, but landscaping through there. I don't want to throw out a number here without putting some thought into it. We'll do that, and I'll share that information of what we're thinking that additional landscaping might cost. I'll share that with internal staff that supports the traffic calming program, so that when you have those discussions, you can be keeping in mind, what that number is. Or if it's a different funding source outside of traffic calming, so be it. But I will kind of put that information out there for your consideration. And again, I would, just given our timing, if decisions can get made in the short term and we can incorporate it with a grind overlay, great. But I see, even if those decisions are made in time, we can do plazas and additional landscaping if that's where we land, as a separate project right on the heels of the grind and overlay and protected bike lane work.
Great. And in terms of the other phases, the central and the west, what's the timeline of that?
Yeah, so this was just, viewed as a planning study. We see those as longer-term projects because they do essentially reconstruct the frontage. We haven't put a hard number to those, but those are $1 million projects because of those improvements that would be involved. So we see those more as long-term. In this particular case, just the immediacy of this work we're doing was really an opportunity because of the grind and overlay project that was planned. And that's really needed out there. There's an opportunity to kind of get a low-hanging fruit, improvement in now.
Well, as you might have noticed, you've fully engaged council on it, and I'm sure the community. So it's exciting to have a project that everyone's so interested in. So thanks for bringing that to us.
All right. Thank you for your time.
And since we're sort of on the same topic, let's go to Marlene and Garrett on the interdepartmental agreement.
Great. I'm just going to share my screen here for a minute. I have a couple quick slides just to kind of orient everyone to this. So Garrett and I are excited to bring forward our approach to an interdepartmental agreement between Parks and Public Works around water conservation. We've been talking to council a lot in the last few months about the needs to keep moving forward on water conservation. So parks, as sort of our showcase landscaper and irrigation folks, are a great place to start. As you know, we have been partnering with parks for a number of years and had some initial investments that we help them do, and also they've been doing significant water saving work as well. So here's just a couple of examples of things that Parks has done, including replacing irrigation systems at its major golf courses at Indian Canyon, Esmeralda, and Downriver that are resulting in multi-million-gallon water savings annually. They've also done a lot of stuff at Manitou Park. The Japanese Garden was a big one this summer, where they did work at the koi pond at the Japanese Garden, and that will save around 17 million gallons in a year. And we're working with them to get some design standards for city projects around irrigation so that we can have consistent practices and really work to reduce irrigation water waste. So our interdepartmental agreement just expands on work they've been doing and work that the water department has helped to fund. We want to invest in water saving projects in parks to the tune of $250,000 annually. We want to support projects that not just save water, but also protect capacity in the water system. And we want to use those park projects and water savings as an example for other customers. On the park side, we're looking to identify those water saving opportunities. We've asked them to participate in our public education activities to reduce water use. They're willing to adopt those every other day and time of day watering approaches that we've been promoting through our stewardship program and want our citizens to engage in. And we're also working with them to develop strategies to reduce watering during peak usage time so that water can manage its system needs better. So this is kind of the overview. And we're going to bring that interdepartmental agreement forward for council to consider and also for the park board to consider. So I will quit sharing and I will let Garrett say something.
Well, thank you, Marlene. Great recap. I think, too, as you know, this is a huge priority and strategy with us and parks.
Yeah.
Also, part of our 2022 budget will be hiring an irrigation specialist, really strictly around these type of projects with water conservation in mind. And I think, too, what we found is it's a combination of both, like Audubon Parks, Coeur d'Alene Parks, Cannon Hill, sections of Franklin still are manual, and we need to update those, but also it's a combination of bringing in that Spokanescape, like what we did at Manitou, and using those high use areas that we still need to irrigate, to do it efficiently, but then look at some of those lower use areas or around native tree groves and bringing back the native landscape to cut down on the irrigated area as well. And also too, like little ones about newer technology around our splash pads, being more efficient about the sensors around temperature, wind, time of use of how long it's on for and duration of the day. And so it gives us more control that'll also dramatically help in our water savings as well. So we've done awesome the last few years of the engagement, but this is a great strategy for that long-term commitment to get us to really be that leader. Like Marlene said, we want to set the example. We want to be the leader of the community. And we're just really grateful that parks can be that platform.
All right. All sounds great. Any questions or comments? Okay, great. All right, that brings us to you, Eldon. We have two things from you. One's on some retail water service expansions, and the other's on the Beacon Hill development agreement.
Yes. Good afternoon, Council. I'll see if I can share my screen. Had it up there from, I don't know what happened to us here.
Yeah. Well,
Let's see here.
we see your screen.
Can you actually see my,
Yeah, the title, page 2021 Water Retail Service Applications.
you can see it, but I can't. See if I can get back here to,
All right.
okay.
Okay.
The site we're talking about is out here in the West Plains. Getting a real echo. Can you hear that too?
Here.
Okay, the site. See if we can pull it up directly here. Okay, what we're talking about is at Hallett Road and Thomas Mountain. On the west side of, you can actually see the existing development in the two parcels in purple. One's a 10-acre parcel, one's 20.
We're
And the applicant,
Eldon, we're not seeing that slide, I don't think. We're seeing the,
let's
we're
see
seeing
here.
the big map of the whole system.
I'm trying to see if I can get off. I'm signed up twice on here, and I think you're seeing the second application here. See if I can fix it. You still seeing the big map?
Yep.
And you can't see the two parcels there?
No, I don't. Anyway.
We see some purple squares, but that's
Those are the two parcels. Yeah. Yeah, and those are the one's a 10-acre parcel, the other one's 20, and it's on the southwest part of town, right adjacent to Thomas Mellon and Hallett Roads. One's a 10-acre parcel, and the second one's a 20-acre parcel. And these properties are inside the urban growth boundary. They're outside the retail water service boundary. And so the applicant's requesting to get put in the retail boundary. So what he's attempting to do is build 132 single-family residential units on the 30 acres. He would be allowed to build up to 240 on here. And so basically what we do is a consistency review, and we evaluate 4 items. The first one is capacity. In capacity, we have the ability in our Plains water system to provide service to this property. The second one is consistency, and what that means is it inside the urban growth boundary, which it is. And thirdly, do we have water rights, which we do. And the fourth one, is it timely and reasonable? And we do have water mains and sewer lines, both on the west side and the north side of this property. So we're actually ready to set a hearing for this, and be happy to answer any questions.
Eldon, is this part of the normal cycle of considering all applications, or is this kind of out of cycle?
This was a little out of cycle. We actually received this application just as we were finishing up the 11 we had back in June. And so we took this one in, and there's nothing that says that we can't have an additional hearing in a year, but we typically don't. So it is a little off cycle. Yeah,
Cathcart.
Yeah, and we did skip 2020, correct? I don't recall taking up any applications in 2020.
that's correct. We carried the ones over from what we were doing in 20 to 2021. So.
Okay.
Anyway.
Member Mum.
Yeah, just trying to verify. So this is inside the city limits.
No, it's in Spokane County. It's on the south side of I-90, out there adjacent to the Thomas Mellon and just south of Hallett Road, a little bit east of Thomas Mellon. And so it's in Spokane County. It's zoned low-density residential, so they can build from 1 to 8 units per acre. And so they're going to build about half of that, is what the intent is.
So I heard your analysis based on state law. I'm also looking at the concurrency requirements. So are they all agreeing to annexation waivers to the city?
That would be part of the actual city comments to any plat that they would send to us. That's a requirement that we would put in there.
And then when looking at concurrency, have we evaluated what the capacity is and what the potential cost would be? Because we're required to do that in the comp plan to make sure that it doesn't lower the level of service for other capital facility needs in the CIP for the rest of the city. So have we heard back from, say, ICM in terms of, do we have to build a new water tower, a booster station, pumps? What's the cost outside of the development itself?
That's part of the consistency review that was done. And so we do have a water tank out there at Thomas Mellon to the southwest of this property. So we do have the capacity in the booster stations and the infrastructure to provide service. They do have water mains in Hallett Road right on the north side and on the adjacent development just to the west. So they have infrastructure that the developer will have to extend into the plat for both sewer and water. So it'd be totally at developer cost. So there's no off-site cost from the city as far as infrastructure goes.
And since this is a JPA, right?
Yes.
What engagement has happened with the community in West Hills area and out there?
Don't think we've had any at this point in time. As we just got the application, and so we've actually processed it, and that's as far as we've got.
Okay. We also have an agreement provision in the comp plan for special purpose districts. So, if we're providing water and sewer, is that correct?
Correct.
We should be looking at an agreement for revenue sharing off the taxes. Have we started that at all with them?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yep. I can't see everybody, so if you have one, go ahead and just volunteer. Councilmember Cathcart, I do see you.
Yeah, just Eldon, what's the timeline then for this to actually come, for that hearing to be held and this to come for a decision by council?
We were going to turn around and actually schedule a hearing for the 15th of November.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of the schedule. Yep. Any other questions?
Eldon, Betsy here.
Yeah.
Based on the questions Councilmember Mum had, the 15th of November might be a little quick to get some of those answers. So, not that I'm not saying I'm not supportive, but I think we need that before we can really set a hearing date going forward.
I'm just thinking about that one. This neighborhood that we have is in the county, and it's pretty much new development in there. So I'm just trying to figure out who you'd really want us to notify in the cities.
So Eldon, there's a nice list of impacts to libraries, fire. We have to sometimes have agreements with fire. If we're going to annex this, it has a potential to take away revenue from the fire district, and they want to know about that. So we might be creating some islands of urbanization here, but if we have an annexation agreement, it's supposed to be inside the city of Spokane, and it does impact those special purpose districts. That's why I brought it up. So anyway, we can talk offline.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions?
All right. You can
Thanks.
switch to Beacon Hill.
Yeah, on the Beacon Hill development, that actually was approved by the hearing examiner back in December 14th of 2005. I think the initial approval was good for a period of 10 years with a 1-year extension. So what kind of happened there is the property underlaying out there is with granite. And so all the construction for sewer, water, street, and stormwater improvements is very expensive. And the timing wasn't very good at that time for the developer to take on that kind of an expense. And so the thing carried over there through that timeline. They tried to put some infrastructure in, and the project didn't move forward. And then prior to December 14th of 2016, why the city entered into a developer agreement to extend it for 5 years for basically the same issues. We just really didn't have a good economy. The market wasn't good for the type of costs required to really install the infrastructure in this development. And we're still kind of in that scenario. So we are back before you again to actually extend that timeline from December 14th, 2021 to December 14, 2026. It looks like now the project has become more viable based on the market, and it's just more viable to actually take on all the costs to put the infrastructure in out there. So that's what this is all about, is extending that original agreement for another 5-year timeline.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think this is really important that we extend this. I mean, they are right on the cusp of getting this done. They've invested millions of dollars already into infrastructure out there. And, this is going to be a huge boon to Northeast Spokane once this happens. And so I think anything short of, an extension and support for getting this development off the ground is not going to be very helpful for, again, a very under-resourced part of our community. And so I just really hope that there's strong support for this. I'm sure if there's conversations that need to be held with the developer, I'm sure we can arrange that if there are other questions. But part of the reason for all these delays has been issues with the city approving infrastructure. There has been a number of obstacles that are in part on the city and in part on the developer. And again, big investment that we desperately need. And so I strongly support, and I'm hoping others will too.
Any other?
Yeah. Any other
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Thank you. I'm new, so I'm asking. So this was originally written in 2005. We're now at 2021. Has there been any other code changes that would affect this in the extension process?
That's pretty much why we're trying to extend the original approval through a developer agreement. Because if not, we would have run into some code changes. One of them being they couldn't build a multifamily portion of the development at this point in time. So if we extend the original hearing examiner's decision, they can do that. Yeah.
Great question, Councilmember Wilkerson. Eldon, to expand on that, besides the density for multifamily, which this is not a center, and it is really close to Spokane County, what other code changes that have happened in the last, I don't know, what would it be, 17 years, that might be beneficial, such as requirement for sidewalks or, other things? What are the possible code changes, if would come into play?
I'm not aware of anything different there, other than we did make private roads the same as public streets, so there wouldn't have been a lesser standard as far as the private roads versus the public roads. So we have made all the roads equivalent to public streets.
That's important because this was an old PUD, is that right?
That's correct.
So
we did that in 2007.
Yeah.
Which was so
important and something to consider as a condition, if the majority of the council, I voted no on this in 2016 because I thought too much time had passed. The provision of having adequate roadways that meet the same design guideline over the rest of the city, I think is really important. So if the majority of the council, we can discuss later, but feels like they do want to extend again on this, I would at least put in the provision that they have to meet public street, a minimum standard, because it's important for walkability. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cathcart.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of any design on the street up there that would be less than standard, but certainly that's a conversation to have. But I just think, I mean, this came into the city as multifamily. A lot of this was multifamily in the 80s when it was brought in. The PUD ordinance has kind of been picked apart in the 16 years since, and they would be very much behind the eight ball in terms of being able to provide as much housing as they can under that original ordinance. And so I think it's really important that we extend the original version and not make them reapply. Not only would that delay them two years probably and a lot of money, but we're in the middle of this housing crisis, which I feel like I have to say every single week, and we need housing. And there's an opportunity for about 1,000 units up there between multifamily and single family. And I don't think it's fair that we would just allow only single family to have these amazing views of our community either. I think there should be a lot of options for different types of housing out there, including multifamily, and people deserve to have these choices and options. And so I think it's important that we make sure that that can continue on.
So Eldon, just to clarify, as part of the extension, we could condition it on them meeting the street standards if they agreed to it.
Yeah, and I think they've actually been contemplating providing public roads anyway versus the private roads. So.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions or comments? All right. When do you expect this to come forward, Eldon?
We're trying to move it ahead just as soon as we can schedule for the council hearing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I would appreciate it if you would talk to the developer about including some language agreeing to meet the public street standards. So before the hearing, so that we know that they're good with that ahead of time. That will probably make things go smoother.
And I would just like to point out, this is not a developer agreement. Am I correct? This is an extension.
It's an amendment to an extension of. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. Anything else? All right. I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda. Our next meeting is November 22nd. Thanks, everyone. We'll see council members at 3:30. We're adjourned.